Of peace in Ukraine shattered once again. A temporary ceasefire to evacuate 2 cities broken. Russia wrapping up its attacks across the country as Ukraine takes down some of its aircraft. Putin's warning, the Russian president comparing sanctions to a declaration of war, while Ukraine's president calls on his countrymen to go on the offensive and appeals directly to the U.S. Congress. Defiance, the brave Ukrainians protesting in the streets in a city now controlled by Russia, even marching towards soldiers as they fire. Children fleeing for their lives, more than 500,000 and counting, were there for the emotional reunions. Late today, Visa and MasterCard shutting down their services inside Russia. Americans joining the fight. Volunteers in the U.S. preparing to travel to Ukraine and battle Russia.
Was there a moment that you decided you're going to go and try to fight in Ukraine?
The moment I found out you could.
Soaring prices at the gas pump, set to hit a new record within days. Would you be willing to pay even more to punish Russia?
I would 100%. I'd be willing to pay a little bit extra.
And more than just a flower, a symbol of hope uniting much of the world behind Ukraine.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. The day started with the prospect of a limited ceasefire in Ukraine, but is ending with the war and the rhetoric only escalating. President Vladimir Putin today ratcheted up his warnings to NATO and the U.S., saying if anyone creates a no-fly zone over Ukraine, they will be considered part of this conflict. The U.S. is now advising all Americans to leave Russia, while Moscow sent in this plane to evacuate its diplomats from Washington. But perhaps the most jarring development of the day happened here in the southeastern city of Mariupol. Population of nearly 500,000 people, almost as many as Atlanta. It is under brutal assault by Russia. Today, a temporary ceasefire was declared, and then it was broken. We have all of this covered for you tonight, and we begin with Matt Bradley inside Ukraine.
Tonight in Ukraine, peace never had a chance. Overnight, Russians and Ukrainians agreeing to a partial ceasefire, allowing civilians in the devastated city of Mariupol to flee. But just hours later, while we were preparing to leave, the Russians started shelling the evacuation corridor, said the mayor. There was no ceasefire. Russia said it was the Ukrainians who broke the deal. Ukrainian President Zelensky calling his citizens to go on the offensive. This woman's 18-month-old son was killed yesterday. The doctors couldn't save him, she wailed, asking over and over again, why? People in this town have suffered days without heat, water, and electricity, and faced devastating Russian bombardment on civilian targets, according to Ukraine, a charge Russia denies. Outgunned and outmanned, the Ukrainians are still fighting 10 days into Russia's invasion, taking down a Russian helicopter and shooting down a Russian jet north of Kyiv, killing one of its pilots. Russia's sprawling 40-mile convoy of armored vehicles, failing to advance, still stalled outside Kyiv for nearly a week, as civilians in the capital overcome obstacles like this destroyed bridge to get to safety. Zelensky admonishing NATO for not implementing a flight ban. Starting from today, everyone who dies will die because of you as well, he said, because of your weakness, because of your disunity. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warning a no-fly zone could put NATO forces in direct conflict with Russia. But Russia's president is doubling down, telling flight attendants for the state airline that a no-fly zone and Western sanctions are a declaration of war. Any move in that direction will be considered by us as participation of that country in the military action, he said. Ukraine must be demilitarized and denazified, he said. That's the only message most Russians will hear about Putin's war. A harsh new media law comes into effect today, imposing a 15-year punishment on whoever spreads so-called fake news about the invasion. Independent media outlets are closing and being shut down. Staff at the Russian network TV Raid walked off set in unison during their last broadcast, leaving viewers old footage of Swan Lake, what the Soviet Union used to broadcast during times of strife. A chilling reminder of how Putin's new Russia is looking more like the old.